Confecto Negotio. Thanks to the successful rescue of clone trooper Echoes, a massive blow has been dealt to the Separatist forces. Taking on a daring infiltration mission, Clone Squad 99, along with Rex, Echo, and Anakin Skywalker, board the flagship of Admiral Trench to foil his evil plan. While Anakin tackles Trench and his forces, on the ground, Jedi Generals Obi-Wan Kenobi and Mace Windu lead a daring assault to take back the planet of Anaxis from the droid forces amassed there. Thanks to the brave acts of Echo, the droid forces on the ground are defeated, and in a dark turn, Admiral Trench is cut down by Anakin Skywalker. With the planet saved and the droid forces defeated, what does this dark side of Anakin mean for the future?
Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 6 of the Chosen One Star Wars podcast here on Game Domain. Today, we are going to be reviewing episode 4 of the Clone Wars Season 7, titled Unfinished Business. As always, I'm your host, Jason, joined by my co-host, Leo.
Hey, what's going on, guys?
And Captain.
Yar.
So, we just want to first off apologize for not being able to bring you guys an episode last week. Two of us were sick over that weekend, and we really just didn't have our schedules couldn't quite align in order to record one. Obviously, it's a crazy world right now with the whole advisory to everybody out there. Everything here at the Game Domain channel is going to be going the same as it always has. Obviously, we communicate with each other through Discord and through YouTube and other social media platforms. So we're not, nothing's being spread in Game Domain. So we're all perfectly fine. We're going to continue channel operations just like normal, but, just advisory to all, just listen to all the doctors, continue to be safe out there. It's getting scary, but hopefully everything will be fine. And yeah, so just stay safe, wash your hands, all the normal stuff that they've been talking about. So this episode brought us a lot of plot and a lot of action. But quickly, before we get into talking about episode 4, we're just going to quickly go back a week and briefly discuss the events of episode 3. So why don't we start with Captain? Just, if you want to give some of your thoughts on episode 3 of Clone Wars Season 7.
It was a filler episode.
Yes, that is definitely.
That's probably the easiest way to it was an escape. That's it. It's like we picked up Echo and it was like, boy, we got to book it out of here because those weird flying droids.
Yeah.
I was like, they've escaped, and then they started fighting. I was like, well done, you pulled a fast one on me. I was not expecting that. But yeah, it was. I actually kind of liked the episode. It was a filler, so there wasn't much to it. It was like, hey, we've just got to, show them getting from point A to point B with, a doom thing in the middle that they overcome. And I was like, there might be a point where someone dies, and they've been doing it quite often with one of the Bad Batch will be like, I'm going to stay behind and give you some time, and I'm like, they're dead, and I'm like really surprised when they're not, because that's how a lot of TV goes. So thank you, George Lucas, for not being, extremely cliche and just killing people off and actually showing the fact that the Bad Batch is as badass as they sound. But apart from that, there was not really much that happened. Like, they were like, they landed, they were like, droid, come, you help us because droid evil. And then they were like, other people were like, yes, droid evil, we help you now. And that was about it.
Yeah. So Leo, you want to give some of your thoughts?
Yeah, so going back to what Captain said about the whole dying thing, for a second I thought Wrecker was going to die when he was throwing up everyone up, and I was like, okay, he's just gonna boost his way up there with a super jump or something. But Anakin went in first and got him with the force pulls, so he was spared a very nasty fate, I believe.
That was a very well animated and shot scene. That was probably my favorite scene in the whole episode, when Wrecker's throwing them all up and then he force pulls them up. Yeah. I like that scene. Continue.
It was funny.
But besides that, yeah, I mean, not much happened. They had a little fight, and like Captain said, me help you, robot bad, and that's about it, honestly.
Yeah, so I kind of have the same opinions as you guys. To be completely honest, I mean, out of the 4 episodes that we've gotten, this was definitely my least favorite. And, like Captain said before, it was really just a filler episode. But we get that with all TV shows. We got that with The Mandalorian. We're getting it here with the Clone Wars season 7. Even though it's 12 episodes, there's always going to be filler episodes. Obviously, also like Captain was saying, they needed to get from point A to point B. Echo had to get out of there somewhere. It didn't really develop much plot, for going forward. But yeah, it was just a filler episode. It was something that we needed, something that needed to be there, but really nothing that, caught anybody's attention that much. And really, you could have skipped this episode completely and not have been too lost in the plot. But so with that said, it was still a good and enjoyable episode, very action heavy. And I mean, the animation just throughout this whole entire series, this whole season of the series, obviously the series as a whole, all 7 seasons, but this season in particular, obviously with the massive jumps in animation that they've made within the last 6 years since we got season 6, it just makes the whole experience that much better. And but yet still feeling like the original experience that we got back from 2008 to 2014. So going into episode 4, this episode had a lot going on, and every single second of it was just filled with action. It was just all pretty amazing. I mean, just even from the opening scene with Mace Windu and Obi-Wan and kind of the Jedi talking to some of the clone leaders like Rex, and then with Anakin there, and then Echo kind of just coming out immediately and saying, here I am, I'm ready, I have a plan, I know how to destroy the Separatist ship. And then, I mean, his cybernetic arm, obviously we see that where it looks almost like Captain Hook or something. Yeah. He's got that little cybernetic arm that, I thought that they were going to do something like that when they initially found him. And obviously now we have the Bad Batch. So we know that Echo could kind of fit along with them, which is obviously something we see later in the episode. And we know how Echo can fit in with them because now he really has these like supernatural, superhuman powers that were given to him by the Separatist, completely turning into him in basically half man, half machine, to quote the words of Obi-Wan Kenobi. About Darth Vader. But the episode, I mean, was just completely full of plot, completely full of action. I have some specifics that I want to touch on, but before I go into the specific note that I took when I was rewatching the episode right before we started filming, why don't we just go, Captain, do you want to give some of your thoughts on what you thought of the episode?
Dude, Anakin is dark.
Yes.
I was like, oh, so he's just going to be like, Admiral Trench. So just a little bit of context. There is a bomb which Mace Windu has to disarm, or else it will blow up a portion of the planet. Yes, I was kind of like a bomb that size, but whatever.
Yeah, because when you get to it, when you get to it, it's like a teeny tiny little thing in the corner of the hangar.
It's like a big Rubik's cube. But, so I was like, he's just gonna be like, give me the codes, Admiral Trench, so Mace Windu can shut down the bomb. And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, Admiral Trench is like, you can't kill me because you're a Jedi. And he's like, I don't have that weakness. And I was like, shit, they're making him dark. I was like, yes, finally. We're seeing that whole point that now he has no, like, when Obi-Wan's not around, he has no, buffer, that's what Ahsoka would be. Should, like, stop him from stabbing people out, right?
When he's by himself. I mean, because Obi-Wan and Mace Windu are obviously there, but they're not with him, and neither is Rex or any of the other clones. When he's by himself, he is completely
dark, and I am appreciating the fact that he looks more like the voice actor now. If you take a picture of like season 6 Anakin and season 7 Anakin, they've taken more, and I can't remember the voice actor's name, but he's the guy who also played
Matt Lanter, the one who voices him in the Clone Wars. And then Hayden Christensen's obviously the actor who plays him.
The guy who voices him in the Clone Wars, he looks more like his voice actor, which is it was a nice touch. So I was appreciating that. But overall, the episode, it was just. It was so fun, and I've got to appreciate the fact that they're not doing a Disney, and they're not just like taking what they had previously and getting rid of it, and then tap dancing on his grave and all that kind of stuff. They're giving some subtle callbacks here and there. I especially like the fact that the Bad Batch keeps having competitions with themselves. Like Wrecker was just destroying droids, and then Crosshair was like, "Watch this," and then right at the end,
when Wrecker gets upset when Cross. Yeah.
Yeah, and then Wrecker just blows up all the like Anakin
This
gives
is the
Wrecker.
happiest moment of my life.
Oh, it was absolutely beautiful. I was like, this is how you write a TV show.
Yeah, and then even I just want to quickly touch on, because this kind of goes back to episode 3 too. In the first 2 episodes of this arc, we get kind of you can tell that the Regs and the Bad Batch don't really get along. They're not really they don't really like each other. But in episode 3, and especially in episode 4, I mean, we see with Rex and Echo and the 4 members of the Bad Batch and Anakin, and then the clones that are with Obi-Wan and Mace Windu. They don't really talk. They don't really have any interactions with the Bad Batch, but the Bad Batch and the Regs are kind of just accepting each other, and they're realizing that they're fighting on the same cause, and you can really see that unity among them in the previous episode 3, and obviously this episode when they're fighting. But go on, continue, Captain.
Yeah, like since the Bad Batch has been introduced, they've actually done a very good like arc with them.
Yes.
So it started off as like, it was Bad Batch and Regs were separate, and then the episode after that there was a little bit of like infighting because the Regs wanted to do it this way with Rex, and the Bad Batch wanted to do it this way. And then when they got up into the tower to rescue Echo, like the next episode when they escaped, they kind of like joined together almost as like a full functioning squad. Like they realized that they have good points on each side, so they used them. And then in this episode, we finally saw the fact that they worked perfectly. Like they'd gone from being semi-aggressive with each other to now being proper clone brothers, which was very awesome. And I do like the fact that Rex is like, those are the best troops I've ever served with. I was like, yes, they are. They are the most unconventional clones in existence.
Yeah,
and they are perfect. I wish I could have them.
All right, so Leo, you want to give some of your thoughts on episode 4?
Yeah, at first I thought when Echo was plugged into that interface on the ship, I was like, I don't know, he seems kind of shifty to me, kind of sketchy.
Yeah, that was I'll touch on that when I start talking about that, but yeah, I do agree with you.
Like some snaky stuff on
and you can see kind of the reddish tint in his eyes too throughout the whole episode, which also made it a little shaky, but yeah.
Yeah,
continue.
I was like, I don't know, is he gonna betray us or what's going on? But
yeah,
he pulled through at the end. He was a boss at the end. The part that didn't really surprise me, since we are getting closer to episode 3, was Anakin killing the enemy general guy. I was like, he's like, oh, you can't kill me, I'm a Jedi. I mean, you're a Jedi. And I was like, okay, well, this is Anakin Skywalker, future Darth Vader.
Yeah,
you're kind of screwed, mate. You're kind of screwed. So, when it came to that, I wasn't that like blindsided by it, but it was still fun to watch, to see him become a little bit of Darth Vader that early. And I think Echo going with the Bad Batch kind of makes sense. He's not really the same Echo that we knew before, or that he knows himself as. He's a different person now, and I think he could be a better asset to the Bad Batch. That's about it.
Yeah. So like I said before, while I rewatched it a second time because I like this episode so much, I just kind of went through and took down some notes of like, what I mean. I think my favorite scene in the entire season so far might actually be when Mace Windu and Obi-Wan drop down with the jet trooper clones down out of the lat gunships straight into that hangar, in the middle of the hangar with all the droids there. I mean, that scene just of them coming through the ceiling and landing perfectly right down in the middle, and then all the droids turning to them. I mean, I just think that might have been the best animated scene that we've seen so far, and it was just completely beautiful, and I just absolutely loved it. And then the little witty humor of Mace Windu. I mean, that little speech that he gave them was just absolutely hilarious. And a part of me was thinking maybe because the droids are obviously so stupid, they talk to each other and they'd maybe like listen or something, and then like Obi-Wan and Mace Windu would look at each other and go, wow, that was easier than we thought, and then just start spraying them down. But I just loved how they kind of look at each other and then just point their guns at them, and then Obi-Wan makes the witty little comment like, you really thought that was going to work? And then just like a complete badass battle scene where the clones and Mace Windu and Obi-Wan are just completely obliterating all the droids. And also kind of in a later scene when they went with Echo, the Bad Batch, and Anakin and Echo and Rex, when they went into that I don't even know what you would call it, the little room where where Echo like plugged his cybernetic arm
Yeah,
into
little, like, server joint thing going
that little
on,
like server room where then right before he got zapped and he tries to and he sends all the droids into where Obi-Wan and Mace are. But I mean, just another beautifully animated shot that I love that I wrote down a note of in that hangar scene was when the jet troopers were kind of flying through all the
all the chaos and
cargo, all
stuff.
the cargo, and then they kind of just beautiful animation that we wouldn't have been able to got 6 years, we wouldn't have been able to get 6 years ago, and they just kind of finagle their way through and then go right next to Obi-Wan and Mace Windu, and then we just see, obviously we know how badass the Jedi and the clones are during this era, and they're just completely obliterating all the droids. So that was something I really liked. Obviously, I really loved how they kind of kept us in suspense with the whole Echo situation, because like when they're initially flying in to get onto the separatist ship and Echo is trying to change the signal into creating, making it appear on the droid's radar as just a straight up separatist droid shuttle ship. Tech was like very, very skeptical and said, "Oh, you're not gonna give away our position and who we are you?" And they were all kind of, and they even, there's a shot of Rex's face up close, which we see later in the episode when you also think that Echo might turn. And then, and then the scene that Leo, you were just talking about when they're, when he has a cybernetic arm plugged in and they're trying to change Admiral Trench's order into, all the droids going into that, flooding that hangar where Mace Windu and Obi-Wan are. And so that really kind of keeps you in suspense, and just like the zooming in on Echo with kind of that reddish tint in his eyes. And then you can even see the distraught in Rex's face, because obviously this is, Rex's best friend, if not, one of his best friends, if not his best friend in the, out of all the clones. And so you even see a little bit of skepticism and a little bit of distraught in his eyes when they cut to him in that scene. But obviously, Echo does, he's a loyal clone trooper, as they are, and he follows orders just as clones do,
Loyal to
and
the
he
cause.
loyal to the cause, and he transmits the signal, and then when he gets zapped in the face, and then they kind of carry him out of there, and then I mean I love the hangar scene, but definitely the most foreshadowing scene in this season that we've gotten so far, and probably the most plot intensive scene, I would argue, is when, of course, Anakin goes with Admiral Trench, and you just see the evil in his eyes, because you get that close up glimpse of his face, and you can just see that kind of Sith yellowish tint in his eyes, almost as if a little bit of Darth Vader's coming out right there. And just as Admiral Trench says, you're a Jedi, you can't hurt me. And he says, I'm not that weak. So we're already getting, we thought we were going to get this in the last couple episodes. We were going to get Dark Anakin. Obviously, we still don't know to what extent we're going to get Dark Side Anakin in this Clone Wars. We could literally get him only in the second half of the last episode, or we could get it in episode 8. We really have no idea. But I mean, this little foreshadowing is what I wanted to see throughout the whole beginning part of the season. We didn't really see any of it up until this point, but now we kind of get, that pure darkness within him, and that kind of comes out. And obviously, he kills Admiral Trench out of anger after he zaps him with his little cane stick or whatever you would call that. And then yeah, just the ending scene and how everything wrapped up. I mean, the very emotional scene where Echo's kind of staring with the Bad Batch, and the Bad Batch says, you don't really belong with them. You belong with us. Why don't you come with us? And they start walking away, and then Rex kind of comes over and tells him, if that's where you want to go, then go. And then Echo walks away, and of course it ends before they, cut to the created by George Lucas, and the ending credits music, the salute from Rex to the Bad Batch. And the sad thing is that at this moment, who knows if we'll get more of the Bad Batch? I'd like to think we do. Obviously, if they come back, they'll have to have some sort of role in Order 66. I mean, obviously, we know they have deformities within their, within their body systems, or whatever you would want to call it. So within their genetics. So who knows about the chip, the Order 66 chip? Because all 4 of their chips are, I mean, Echo's, we don't know about Echo, but all 4 of the original Bad Batch chips, Wrecker, Crosshair, Hunter, and Tech, they, these genetic deformities, these could have something to do with the chips in their brains, with the Order 66 chip. So they may be playing a role later in the season when Order 66 comes around. But as of now, right, obviously that's up in the air. I mean, I'd hate to see them bring Echo back and then just kind of not have him show up for the rest of the season. Even if just Echo shows up and we kind of get closure to his story as to what happens with Echo during Order 66. I think even that would be good enough. But, like I said, I'd love to see more of the Bad Batch and kind of them as a whole and what happens with them during and after Order 66, if they follow through on the orders or if their chips, are different or off in some way. But yeah, overall, I mean, this whole episode, I mean, the animation and the action was just completely beautiful. As much as I loved this episode did wrap up the Bad Batch arc, which is obviously the first 4 episodes we're getting, which, obviously mirrored almost, to the T exactly what we got in those. I mean, I don't really know what you would call them, but when Disney released on YouTube back in like 2015, I believe, what they were going to do with episode 7, and obviously the first 4 episodes mirrored what these first 4 episodes are, just obviously with not the full animation that we have now. But I mean, the Bad Batch arc is now completely wrapped up. I mean, I love this original arc, but I will admit I'm very excited to get into the Ahsoka arc, which will probably be coming this week, on this Friday. I'm really looking forward to getting back into the whole Jedi things as much as I love the clone things. The Jedi are so central to the prequels and this Republic era as a whole. And I'm really looking forward to see what we're going to get with that. And so, yeah, before we head into a preview of episode 5 and, the future Ahsoka arc and what we'll be getting down the line, is there anything else that you guys want to touch on before we move on about this episode?
Yeah, how nonchalantly Anakin is about Admiral Trench's death. Seriously, he stabs a dude and then on his way out says, "Pleasure doing business with you, General," as he falls over and dies. I'm like, dude, what the hell?
Yeah, that's some pure Star Wars comedy right there, because obviously, we see that a lot throughout the Clone Wars and
that was just absolutely hilarious. I was like, you've just stabbed the guy, and now you're just gonna be like, see you in a bit.
Yeah, and it's funny the contrast between that, because we see how we're like, oh my god, the evil's coming out of Anakin. We see the dark side in him, and then he just makes that joke when he falls over, and it almost like the tone completely changes.
Yep.
So it's a little bit of foreshadowing, and then it's just right back to normal, humorous Anakin that we've gotten throughout the whole Clone Wars. Leo, is there anything else you want to say before we move on?
No, not really. I do have something to say for the next segment though, so.
All right, so why don't you start off with that then?
Well, going on from here, I mean, I think we've already seen a lot of the Bad Batch, obviously, and we probably won't be seeing them in the next episode, but I wouldn't mind seeing them. But I would like to start to see some build up to the Siege of Mandalore and see, the final battle
definitely
between Ahsoka and Darth Maul and Rex, and see how they all escaped that big, that big battle, and see how that ended up going down. And that's where I'm hoping the next episode starts to take shape. Like maybe some hints, some subtle hints and stuff, or something along those lines.
Yeah. Just quickly before Captain, you give your thoughts. I just want to, because I kind of want to address something that you just brought up. I mean, I think that, in my opinion, I'd love kind of, now that we're past the Bad Batch arc, which obviously when they originally announced the revival of Clone Wars with the release of Clone Wars season 7, when they announced that back in February of 2019, they just kind of said, yeah, Clone Wars is coming back. They showed the trailer, and then at Star Wars Celebration 2019, they revealed that the Bad Batch arc would be the beginning part of the season. Now, those obviously we've gotten in the previous, the early animation stages that they released on YouTube in 2015. The second half of the season, I mean, I'm not sure, because I never really watched those early animations, because in the event that it ever did come back as a show, I just didn't want it to be spoiled for me. But I don't really know what it touches on, but I believe that I don't think Ahsoka comes back, and I don't know to the extent of Maul appearing in that original episode 7, because when they made that original episode 7 cuts, Dave Filoni probably thought he was going to have a couple more seasons out of this, and he probably wasn't expecting to just end it abruptly with having Ahsoka and Maul, dueling at the end of that season 7. So now, obviously, it's a different story with this being confirmed as the final season. And I would like, basically, from this episode that we're getting on Friday, episode 5, straight up until the last episode of the season, if we literally just jump right into the Ahsoka and if Ahsoka and Maul both appear, obviously not together, but both appear in different, plot lines of this next episode, I would be perfectly fine with that, because I think it would not. It would be very underwhelming, and it kind of relates to episode 9. How building up to episode 9, obviously when they first released the trailer and the name The Rise of Skywalker, we got Palpatine's laugh, and everyone immediately from the first footage we got of the movie, we knew that Palpatine was back somehow. And then as we got closer to the movie and knew that Palpatine was really going to have an impact on this thing, which of course he did, everybody was kind of worried. I mean, myself included. I don't know about you guys, that what Disney would do is they'd be like, Palpatine wouldn't kind of be in the whole movie. And then in the last 10 minutes, he'd show up and be like, ooh, I'm here. And then, he'd die immediately. But then obviously that's not what they did. And they did the right thing by literally bringing him back in the first for first couple scenes of the movie. So I would like to think that they do that with Ahsoka and Maul, because obviously the Ahsoka and Maul fight is the big thing that we're building up to, because we know that is inevitably going to happen, because obviously we saw the footage of it and we knew from Rebels that there was some sort of encounter between Maul and Ahsoka, because they were familiar with each other, and more so they were familiar with each other on a personal basis rather than just knowing of who each other is. So we knew that this was inevitably going to happen, and I'd really like for them to just build it up starting this week and take it all the way to the end of the season. I think it would be a mistake to kind of have another couple episode arc similar to the Bad Batch, but just on something different that doesn't really relate to the whole build up to the events of Revenge of the Sith and Order 66 and the fight between Ahsoka and Maul at the Jedi Temple. I think it would be a mistake to use another really, I mean, I hate to say filler arc, because the Bad Batch was, it wasn't really filler. It was an amazing arc, but I would hate to see them to just push off all the build up to the events of the Revenge of the Sith and Ahsoka and Maul fight to like the last couple episodes of the season. I would much prefer if they just kind of went straight into that starting this week. And obviously, we'll wait to see. I'm sure we're going to get some footage. Like I think for every single episode, we've gotten like at least a minute of footage released previously. So we'll see if we get that sometime this week in the days leading up to the release of the episode on Friday. But yeah, so Captain, you want to talk about some things that you're looking forward to here in episode 5 and the whole Ahsoka arc?
Well, I'm thinking if they are going to obviously have to do a setup, which will most likely be within the next 2 episodes, I think, to set up the whole Ahsoka arc and the Maul arc. What I'm really looking forward to is the Mandalorian stuff. I think that's the main thing I will be focusing on.
Yeah, and that will probably tie into everything with Ahsoka and Maul, because obviously we know Maul was once in his words the rightful ruler of Mandalore, having the Darksaber, and all that good stuff. But yeah, so yeah, Captain, I didn't mean to cut you off there. If there's anything else you want to talk about?
I am quite interested to see if they will do anything more along the lines of Order 66, because I don't know. I don't know. Do the Bad Batch have the inhibitor chip?
Yeah. And that's a big question that I think, that it would be quite interesting to see, because that'd be a whole nother thing they could do, because obviously we know that there's some clones who took out that inhibitor chip, because obviously in Rebels we get Gregor, Wolf, and Gregor, Wolf, and Rex, obviously, who were there, who didn't follow through with Order 66. Rex is still, typical Rex, but Gregor and Wolf kind of look, I mean, in Rebels, they look a little bit off, a little bit like out of their mind in a way, but that's probably just because they've been stranded on this desolate planet with really nothing to do other than walking around on an ancient Republic transport. Then, that's where they're really living, and they're just, ice fishing basically to get their food. So that may be why they kind of went a little insane. But obviously, I mean, because Gregor, all we see of Gregor really is that what we got in that one episode where he's kind of, he's really a hero, and he kind of stays back and starts fending off those droids. And now, obviously, we know from Rebels that he is alive and back. I mean, could we even see him? We could see his return in a way throughout.
I think we do
in season 7.
I think they said at one point that they were going to, have Gregor show up.
Okay, because it would make sense, because what they could do is they could have Gregor show up, and they could have, be kind of a grand return, similar in a way to Echo. They could have Gregor show up, and then they could also have, Wolf and Rex, and they could even, they could have an episode or a half an episode, or even while stuff with Ahsoka and Anakin and Obi-Wan and Windu and Yoda and all the Jedi are going on, they could even have, a little side plot of Rex and Gregor and Wolf, and kind of going into how they discovered everything about the inhibitor chip. Obviously, we know Rex knows because of the situation with Fives, Rep Fives, of course. But
Well, maybe that's how Gregor goes semi-insane. Like,
yeah,
Order
from
66
taking out
kicks in,
yeah,
and like he's going to turn on a Jedi, but maybe like he pulls the chip out instead and loses his mind or something.
yeah,
Wolf's always been uptight, so
yeah. And then I saw this thing. I think it was on a Reddit or Instagram. That was actually pretty funny. It was like who's gonna we're all gonna cry when somebody has to tell Echo that Fives died. But obviously we didn't actually get that. Rex didn't. Nobody said that to him. But yeah. So now So really, the Bad Batch arc is really completely wrapped up at this point. Like like we talked about. Hopefully we'll get to see some more of them, and maybe they're role in Order 66. But so we have episodes 5 up until 12 left of the season. So we're a third of the way through the season. And so I mean that's really all we have to talk about for the sake of the Clone Wars at the moment. Also there's just one little quick piece of news that I want to touch on quickly because we have some extra time here. It was just released in an article that The Mandalorian season 2 has completely finished filming.
damn.
So they did that pretty quick. And thank God, because with everything that's going on with these coronavirus fears, I was literally thinking about, oh my God, they may stop filming movies and such because of this coronavirus thing. So, I mean, we all know how upset we would have been if The Mandalorian season 2 got delayed because they wouldn't have been able to finish filming it. But they did finish filming it. I believe they wrapped up towards the end of this week or maybe even last week. But yeah, it's been, reported that they finished filming. I know they started writing it. I mean, because Disney gave them the go on a second season a couple months before the season was released. The first season was released on November 12th of 2019. So Disney already gave them the go on creating a second season. Obviously, Jon Favreau was probably writing that second season before we even got our first glimpse at season 1. So yeah, just quickly before we move on, if each of you guys want to give your thoughts on maybe what you're kind of looking forward to in season 2 of The Mandalorian, now that we know that it's completely set in stone because they're done filming and now it's just going to be in the editing stage, and we'll get it hopefully sometime we are getting it in the fall. I hope it's September rather than October or November, just so we can get it as early as possible, because I mean that series is just completely amazing. And we all want to see more of Baby Yoda. So Leo, is there just anything you want to talk about in regards to Mandalorian season 2, maybe some things you want to see done, and what you're looking forward to about it now that they're finished filming?
Well, I'm looking forward to watching it since I haven't seen any episodes. That's my hot take on it.
Oh, really? I didn't even know. So you didn't see any of the episodes of season 1?
Nope, none of that.
Well,
I just know Baby Yoda, the Mandalorian got his helmet taken off, some big explosion. Yeah. He was on some laser LMG. It got blown up by a Imperial guy, and then that IG assassin droid.
The guy who directed
Taika Waititi, right?
There we go. Yeah, he plays the IG-88 droid, which was
he did amazing like that. And we might be seeing him direct a Star Wars movie in the near future, so he's definitely going to be around the series for a long time, which is good. And I believe he's doing also the report that makes me think the report also said that Dave Filoni directed at least one of the episodes of the new season. I don't think we know if it's been confirmed how many episodes we're getting in this new season, but so Dave Filoni did direct one.
It was in one of the season 1 episodes.
Huh?
Dave Filoni was in one of the season 1 episodes.
They had him, Deborah Chow, and I don't think it was Taika Waititi. I know there was one other director that came in it was in episode 6, right, when the three Republic New Republic X-wings come in, and
he was one of the guys.
To investigate that.
Obviously, we don't want to spoil anything for Leo. So
So the new season. I mean, Captain, do you have anything that you want to talk about that you're expecting for the new season of Mandalorian? Or
yes, like a semi, like maybe not a baby, but like a little bit older Yoda, like Yoda Link with a jetpack. That's what I want to see. That would be
pretty cool. I mean, I'm looking forward very much to this new season. We don't obviously don't know because they haven't said. I have a hinge that it's probably going to be. They might just wrap things up in season 2 because obviously we know where they're going with Baby Yoda and the Mandalorian at this point. I still think that going into this next season, it's probably going to end up being where it's going to culminate in Yoda being returned to his people.
Most
Obviously,
likely.
yeah, his people. We don't know if the Mandalorian views his people as the Jedi, which we could see a younger Luke. Which who knows? They could have Mark Hamill with a shit ton of makeup and
Well, no,
making
no,
his beard all black and whatnot.
because it wouldn't be like the Mandalorian set after Episode 6.
No, I know, but they could just make him look a lot younger because it's
Oh,
like
right,
5 years after. Yeah.
yeah,
So
make
what
him
I'm
look like
saying is
40
because
odd.
if they were gonna use like
I
some
thought you
a
meant
ton of
make him look
makeup
like
and
he's
CGI.
Episode 4 again.
No, a ton of makeup and CGI or whatever, make his beard black like they did with that flashback scene to when
Yeah.
when Ben destroyed the temple. But because obviously if they're gonna have Luke Skywalker in them, and if he's bringing Baby Yoda to the new Jedi Order, because obviously we know Luke runs that. So if he's reuniting him with the Jedi, it's gonna have to be with Luke. And if Luke's gonna be in there, I mean, you can't recast Luke at this point. I mean, Mark Hamill's in his late 60s, maybe. I mean, they could do something to make him look young enough to be a young Luke or whatnot. They probably won't even have him in that scenario. But something that I think is more likely to happen, but which I really don't want to happen, is the last thing I want to see in this season is for him to reunite Baby Yoda with his people, which means that we learn what planet that species comes from. We learn the name of the species, and he literally drops him off on a massive planet full of Yodas.
Yeah,
full
that
of
shouldn't
Yodas.
happen.
That shouldn't happen because, like what George Lucas said, I mean, it's a mystery, right? It's a mystery Yoda species. It's very, they're very powerful in the Force, every single one of them, and it's always it's meant to be a mystery. We don't know what planet he's from. And obviously, the only other member of Yoda's species that we get is Yaddle in the prequels, and that was George Lucas's inclusion. So George Lucas already set out to having other members of the species. So that's why like making Baby Yoda wasn't really that outlandish, because if Yaddle never happened, then people would be complaining, oh, why do you have Baby Yoda? George Lucas only meant for just Yoda to be a member of that species. But, he also created Yaddle, so that opened the door to having other members of the species. But yeah, the last thing I want is for the mystery behind that species to be revealed, and for them to go to the planet that they're on and it just be a full planet of Yodas. That wouldn't sit well with me. But I mean, I think the whole mission of this next season is going to be for Mando to try to reunite Baby Yoda with his people. I mean, I'm gonna miss IG-11. I want to say IG-88, but obviously that's not him. But so I mean, I would love to see IG-11, but obviously he's blown up. Quill, who was maybe my favorite character, I'm kind of upset that he's
got
gone
blown
too.
up?
But yeah,
Oh,
but
wow.
Hey,
he
listen, like, I'm just happy that there might be a season 3.
yeah. I mean, I see
Because
that's up in the air right now, because I think if there were to be a season 3, we'd probably find out before season 2 came out, which then, in my opinion, would almost completely change the dynamic and our outlook on season 2, if you know what I mean. Because if we found out that there was going to be a season 3 before season 2, then we would know, and we would stop expecting it to be wrapped up in season 2 and be like, okay, this is going to kind of be sandwiched in between the beginning of the story and then the end of the story, right? With season 1 being the beginning, season 3 being the end. So then it's like, all right, this is just going to be a bunch of other, not really filler stuff, but it's going to be a bunch of plot, trying to get from point A to point B. So obviously that would be a big development if they announced the season 3 before the start of season 2. But obviously, who knows? We can get a trailer, and the trailer could hint at of there being room for another season. But obviously, this is a show that everybody likes. I don't think I've heard one person really say anything bad about it. I mean, it's a show that's incredibly popular. It really, in a way, brought the Star Wars fandom together. And it was also so successful because it brought fans of that aren't Star Wars fans, just people who had Disney Plus for other reasons, who are like, oh, everybody's talking about this show. Baby Yoda's so cute. He's all over the internet. Why don't I give the show a watch? and it's making Disney a lot of money and Lucasfilm a lot of money, which we know is what they probably care about the most out of anything, which, you know, is their right. And I mean, it just made the show that much more popular. And, you know, I think they're going to try to carry that popularity into this next season. They'll heavily have, you know, Baby Yoda will be an intricate part of it again. I'm sure he'll be in all the trailers to try to get those non-diehard Star Wars fans to watch this season as well. And yeah, I think we have a lot to look forward to in the season. And yeah, like we said, if they announce that there's going to be a season 3 before season 2 comes out, then our outlook changes completely, because we know that Baby Yoda will not be reunited with his people by the end of season 2, because that will be something saved for season 3. So all right, so I mean that's pretty much it for today. So if there's just anything, Leo and Captain, that if you guys want to just touch on regarding the Clone Wars or Mandalorian or any other Star Wars things before we wrap it up.
No, I'm good. I don't know about you, Captain.
Yeah, I just want to say it's a big up to the people who do the Mandalorian for the fact that the Mandalorian has no set.
Yeah.
Everything in the Mandalorian is filmed on a square. Basically, there is no set, there is no soundstage, there is no any of this. Everything is a projected screen, which is absolutely bitching. So big up to them, and also big up to them because by doing it that way, they like, obviously with the big whole Corona thing going on at the minute, or COVID-19, if you want to give it its proper name, that it's like, because it's there, it's tiny little set. There's like 30 odd people working on it. That's 30 people who, if they all, you know, follow the regulations, you know, wash your hands, you know, be sanitary and all that kind of stuff, which you all will be doing anyway. Don't know why you're not, you dirty bastards. But that is what gives me hope for like a third season, because it's not like a TV show that like might have a live audience, or which it you know, a lot of TV shows at the minute don't have live audiences, especially late night shows. But I got to give them big ups for the fact that they were like, how can we make, you know, this Mandalorian TV show? And they were like, yeah, no, there's this technology that means you don't have to build anything. Like, extras are just, you know, there. Sometimes there's none of this stuff, and it's absolutely beautiful. So when it comes to the Mandalorian, big up for the fact that it's not only more Star Wars than anything Disney has ever done. But it's also a technological marvel that just, I don't know how, but somehow makes it more Star Wars. So just a big up to them.
A big thing with the entire Star Wars franchise, and I believe we talked about this in I think in episode 2 of this podcast, when you know, me and Captain were ranking our favorite Star Wars movies, and it's something that a Star Wars YouTuber that I've watched you know, I've basically watched every video for the last couple of years, Star Wars Only. I don't know if any of you guys are familiar with him. He's also pretty big on Instagram, one of the bigger Star Wars pages on Instagram. He brought up this thing when he was reviewing episode 9, and he's not really a big fan of the sequel trilogy, and he stressed something that I think is very important to look at, whether you love the sequel trilogy, hate it, or are indifferent about it. The original trilogy made massive strides in special effects, right? Obviously the original Star Wars movie, and then, you know, episodes 5 and episode 6 that came after it. I mean, just like, no, when those movies came out, it was just completely breathtaking to everybody. Nobody thought that a movie could look that good. A movie could have things, you know, in space looking that good, with explosions and all those amazing special effects, with beautifully built sets. Everything was filmed like real, no CGI, nothing. I mean, it was just, George Lucas did such, and Industrial Light and Magic did such an incredible job at creating this wonderful galaxy, and literally changed the course of movies forever, because that was such a pioneer in the special effects industry of movies, that it really changed movies and cinema forever, all the way up until today. And then you go to the prequel trilogy, and the prequel trilogy was groundbreaking for its CGI. Obviously, the CGI now, looking back on it, is pretty outdated in episodes 1 and 2. Episode 3 still holds up pretty well today, I will admit it. It looks pretty good today when you go back and watch it. But the original trilogy gave us the massive leaps forward in special effects, which, you know, helped pioneer the special effects movement in cinema for years to come, and all the way up until today. And then the prequel trilogy, you know, started the wave of really the CGI movement, and was one of the first movies to really basically use mostly CGI to construct the entire movie. Obviously, looking back on it now, they went a little bit overboard with the CGI. They should have made more sets. Like Hayden Christensen said, his favorite scene to film in Star Wars, he was in episode 2 and episode 3, was the bar scene when they're chasing Zam Wessel, because he said that whole set was built and it actually felt real instead of acting in front of a green screen like the rest of everything. But even though we look back on it now and criticize that there being so much CGI, that CGI and like the fact that Jar Jar, who obviously most people hate, was the first all CGI character in anything, is completely groundbreaking. And the original trilogy and the prequel trilogy both had special effects and CGI, both had aspects of movie that we view today as like, oh, that's anything. Like, anybody with an editing software can do some of the stuff that they were doing in 1977, right? But then, I mean, those two trilogies kind of completely like turned the cinema industry on its head almost. And George Lucas and Industrial Light and Magic's, pioneering of those different areas of cinema editing, that had such a big impact on the movie industry as a whole. Now you look at the sequel trilogy really had none of that. The sequel trilogy didn't make any groundbreaking changes or effect to cinema like the original two Star Wars trilogies did. But like you were just saying, Captain, with the Mandalorian, is that the Mandalorian, I mean, like you said, is filmed mainly in front of screens, but look how realistic it looks. I mean, it literally looks like every single thing is filmed on real sets and you would have no idea. But really, they're not that real sets. And like you said, it's like 30 people in a small area and they just film the scenes and, have to get out of there. So, I mean, it's, the Mandalorian really does bring out the best in Star Wars. And, I mean, we're all looking forward to, what's to come in season 2. So yeah, so that pretty much wraps it up for today. We'd like to thank you guys for tuning in here to episode 6 of The Chosen Ones. And once again, we'd like to apologize for not bringing you guys an episode last week. Obviously, we talked about episode 3 of the Clone Wars a little bit at the beginning of this episode. And yeah, just before we head out, I just, of course, want to stress again, just stay safe out there. Obviously, like we said before, it's getting pretty crazy. It's a crazy world we live in. And yeah, so just, follow the hygiene and follow everything the government's saying. If you're quarantined or whatnot, or if you have symptoms, obviously just listen to what the health professionals and the doctors are saying. And just, we all hope that you stay safe out there. And obviously we're all in this fight against this crazy disease together. Yeah, so that's all for today. And we'll see you guys later.
Boy.
See you guys later.